Clearly, I was somebody with a very controversial opinion. So controversial, it got a majority in a referendum, but hey. But it was, and you're in a restaurant and someone tweets that you're there. And if you're not on the ball, you can have a problem very, very quickly. And that's where you need, to have somebody looking after you, checking social media and everything else. Before we go on to the international dimensions of this, which I suspect when we come to Ukraine, there's going to be a lot to talk about. What about the security of our kids in terms of what they see online, where they go? What can parents do to try and protect their children?
Well,
it really is a big issue.
Yeah, without giving a cheap plug, I did write a book about it a couple of years ago.
I know.
I think fundamentally what we've got to understand, and I was talking to one of the schools. I do quite a bit of sort of talks to schools and particularly to little ones about what they have to be aware of in terms of their growing digital footprint and the profile that they're projecting. And that back in our day, Nigel, thankfully we lived in the time of 35mm and Instamatics, and our childhood and our adolescence wasn't documented in the same way.
Thank goodness.
I know, absolutely. I think I'd be locked up today if that was the case. But I think for kids, they don't realise that, maybe an interview they go to in 10 years' time, their employer is going to look at their Facebook history, their Instagram history, their digital profile. And removing this stuff is really difficult, very, very, very hard. And people don't understand that the law actually doesn't work as well as one might imagine. And this right for privacy and removing things from Google, it's not that straightforward. So what I fundamentally say, and as I did to this school I was talking to today, is about parents really understanding that they can't use it for virtual nannying. They have to engage themselves in that child's digital life as much as they do in their real life. So if the child says, I'm talking to Jemima or Harry or Fred or whatever, in the same way as if they said, well, I'm going to go off and play with Harry, Jemima or Fred, they'd say, well, how do you know them? Do you know them from school or anything else? Don't just think because they're online, they don't necessarily pose as much of a threat, if not more of a threat. So it's about a parent talking with their child, having a constant dialogue, understanding what they're enjoying, what they're not enjoying, what frightens them, and understanding also in terms of content, what is seen can never be unseen. So don't venture out and look for that material.
And we've had that, there was, I won't name him, but an England cricketer, plays his first test match, and it turns out years before, when he's a teenager, he's written something on social media that isn't very savoury.